are, ladies and gentlemen, another exciting show from the Scouser and the Scot.
Well, today we've got a very interesting one. Very unique, very jaw-dropping, stand out, next level, what I call it. I'd like to introduce the Doctor and the Psychoberry from the Ward 16. How the hell are you doing?
Very good, thank you. How are you?
Great,
yeah, not bad at all. You keeping well during lockdown?
Getting to the end of it.
I think we're the same as everybody else, to be honest.
Yeah.
Just a bit fed up, but it's just being optimistic, I think.
Yeah, because we've been shielding, so we haven't just been locking down, we've been shielding, so there's been that extra tier of isolation for us, really, that we haven't been able to see, I know, our kids and things like that, so it's been...
We know what it's like to be actual inmates now, so...
Yeah, we've actually gone...
It's been very insightful for us.
That's inspired the next album.
That's what I like to hear. Everyone's doing it. Everyone's like going, if you can't have anything to write about, you should have things to write about after this lockdown.
We're just worried now because the first two albums were about someone being locked away. Now everybody's been locked away. Like, where's the novelty? We're gonna be like extroverts and just sociopaths and stuff like that now instead.
I think what you need to do is pretend that you've never been, that you were actually different and you were free all the time. Everybody else was.
Yeah, we're just wandering the streets, just enjoying ourselves.
Flip it slightly. Mind you probably get death threats. No, don't.
Yeah.
So we've got about 10 questions to throw at you guys today. Is that all right for you?
Yeah, great.
Let's make a start then. So let's have a little bit of background about yourself. Can you give us a bit of background of your early music life? What music did you used to listen to?
It's quite embarrassing for me, really. It's mostly in my early life, I was into things like Eminem. I think my first ever album was Hanson. So it wasn't really till... I remember when I was always younger, I always used to hear music and I had no idea how to access it, but I'd hear it coming from people's cars and I'd hear it. I remember hearing it when I was on holiday, just playing, must have been playing on a jukebox or something. And I don't know what the songs were, but it's basically like classic rock sounding stuff, like the sleazy type stuff. And I used to love it, but I had no idea how to find out what it is. So I just carried on along this path of what was accessible until Google came around, really, and then I started googling lyrics from things when I heard them.
Google, things like that didn't exist when I was alive.
I'm glad you said that.
There's actually a rap scene in the when I was younger, they banned it off from all radio stations, so there was just no way at all to access it until the internet came about. I was in the era where it was just shut off unless you already knew about it.
Mine, I can every memory that I've got has got music infused in it. I don't know whether it's because of where we're from. Certainly from being from Merseyside, music's a cultural thing. It's really ingrained in it, and I can remember singing Beatles songs in school. Instead of church songs and stuff like that. It just felt like it was just something natural, and I've always been drawn to it. And my dad was really into music as well. So I just used to sit there and go through his LPs and his cassette tapes, and I came across stuff like Slippery When Wet by Bon Jovi and Live After Death, Iron Maiden, The Wall by Pink Floyd, and Misplaced Childhood by Marillion. And I was drawn with them really because the pictures on the front of the seat, on the cassette or the LP, and they were the first things that I kind of went, wow, that looks a bit different, and gave them a trial. And then, I can just remember it didn't stop from there. And first year of secondary school, it was just a group of us in the first year all got a guitar on the same Christmas, and it just kind of steamrolled from there.
Everyone's, I'll be honest, John, like over the last couple of weeks we've been doing this, the amount of people who've mentioned Fish, Marillion, it's been phenomenal. You know what I mean? I'm big into Fish, Marillion and stuff like that. I'm actually hopefully going to see him in November as well when he comes back to Liverpool. So
he's an absolute genius. He's
I think
you look back on him now and you actually I think you get to appreciate him a little bit more, because it's just there aren't wordsmiths like him anymore.
It's very rare.
I
Very
think,
rare.
Other than her.
Oh,
yeah.
obviously.
I think for me, I mean, I've never been a big Marillion fan, but one thing I would say is that he lyrically is superb. He is.
Yeah.
He's such a clever guy, and that's why his lyrics are good, because he is a very intelligent and insightful guy. When you watch him and you hear him talking about everything, any subject at all, he's brilliant at it.
And I think I like the way his accent comes through as well. I think, you know, a lot of people try to do the American accent when they sing, and you can actually hear his accent is, you know, clean as a bell. And I think that added like a different kind of texture to it as well. But I loved all that. I love the storytelling music, you know, I always have done.
So when you look back and, you know, when you first started and you thought, I want to be in a band, or I want to learn a musical instrument, or I want to be a performer, if you to pick one or two each of you, of who were the people that made you go, this is what I want to do because I've seen them do, who would it be?
Probably the wanting to do the whole theatrical thing anyway. That was definitely from watching Alice Cooper's Welcome to My Nightmare show. It was only on video that I watched it, but I also remember my first real big gig experience was with Download Festival 2006, and I remember Guns N' Roses playing the Sunday as the last ever band, and in the last song the rain just started pouring down during Paradise City, and I was like, I knew this was my last moment of the best weekend I'd had, and I just looked up there thinking, like, I want to be up there.
Yeah, that's cool. You picked some good ones there.
I didn't actually, although I was playing guitar since I was 11, the first band I was in, I was 30, because it was a hobby, and life and work took over. And then I got into a covers band on the Whittle. I played a few years there, and it was good, but it was playing Pink and things, you know, like sort of like Oasis and all that kinds of stuff. And I think
they ruined my childhood.
So I enjoyed that element of it, but I think it was more the one person that indirectly inspired me to actually take a jump and get back into music was a fellow called Jason Becker. And he was a guitarist in the 80s who was playing for Dave Lee Roth, and he was 20, and he was like going to be the next big thing. And he was diagnosed with ALS, which is like motor neuron. So he became paralyzed from like the eyes down. Couldn't, you know, obviously paralyzed means that from the eyes down he can't do anything from the eyes down. So he wrote and composed albums just using his eyes, and just using the ability to nod and use his eyes to identify what notes and tempo and pitch or whatever. And he wrote concertos and things like that. And it was proper soul music. And then it got me thinking, because around the same time, I was diagnosed with an illness, and I was given like 2 years to live and things like that. And it made me really step back and go, what do I want to do? What am I doing with my life? And how can I express something that I'm too scared to talk about? So I went, I need to get back into music. So I started playing guitar again, and then it wasn't enough. And I just felt like I needed to throw everything into it so I could express something that I don't think I could talk about. And it was certainly that inspiration that he took, where, you know, I've been playing guitar for like 25 years, but I had nothing to show for it. So it was that I need to have something to give my kids or whatever, that he wasn't just a manager, you know, a boarding suit at the hospital. He actually loved music, and music did something to him and inspired him to do stuff that nothing else could.
How long ago was this, Dave, when you decided to do that?
I was diagnosed in 2013, and then I started playing guitar more from then. And then I joined WARD 16 2015.
Well, so WARD 16 existed before you?
Yeah, for about a year.
Started in 2013, but I think the first year of it was just getting a lineup together, really, because I think we just couldn't get a drummer for God knows how long and sort of thing. And then we had a guitarist before David who wrote
Who?
a handful of before
Doctor.
Dr. Von Stock. He wrote a handful of songs with us, which were on the first album, but then he left to join the army. So then we went on the hunt again for
Left.
for another guitarist. But he was a very versatile player, so replacing him was a real challenge because we got a lot of guitarists coming to audition who were great at doing one style, but then they couldn't jump in and out of different styles. So I kind of lost count of the amount of guitarists we auditioned before David came down to audition.
All right, cool.
That's pretty cool. So obviously we're talking about bands, and let's delve in before Ward 16. So obviously I know the Doctor, you've said that you've actually been in covers bands and stuff like that before Ward 16, and
Yeah.
you give us a quick overview. But Psychoberry, you have to give us a bit more info on this one. Where did it all start for you?
I was in a band before Ward 16 called Springfield Jack. It was the first kind of leap I took with anything like that, but it was pretty much generic. And then we kind of disbanded, and I didn't do anything for a while after that because, well, they actually kicked me out because I was rubbish. So my kind of self-esteem was on the floor, and I didn't do anything for quite a few years after that. And I thought, and I don't know, other people telling me, this isn't kind of true. I don't think this is true. So I just went and got to build my confidence back up. I went and did some singing lessons, and then after that I auditioned for another band, but I was just doing it as a test, really. I didn't want anyone to know I was going to an audition. I just wanted to test if I was rubbish. So I went to the audition, and they were really impressed and wanted to take me on. And then afterwards I was like, I'm really sorry guys, I've got this idea that I want to go with.
Oh God, I bet you were popular.
So they took Axel back.
Yeah.
It was the rain. They knew she could stand the rain coming from here. November.
That's when I started Ward 16, and I had this basic idea. I think by that point I'd experienced all the Alice Cooper type stuff, and thinking I really wanted to do that because I wanted to do something that was appealed to all the senses, but I also wanted a character to hide behind, because I think I was a bit nervous. I was nervous in the first place when I did it, when I went out with the first band. So I was kind of more nervous this time because of what had happened. So I wanted to just change character when I went on stage and hide behind it. I knew people like Slash had done things like he wore the hat and put his hair right in front of his face to combat the nerves and things. So I just wanted to complete alter ego.
So when was the last time that you actually performed on a stage without the makeup and the Psychoberry?
I don't know if we've ever done it with. Probably when I was about 21, so about 10 years ago.
So if we challenged you to do a gig playing your music without all the theatrics and without the look, could you do it?
I wouldn't want to, but I probably could. I just wouldn't enjoy it. I don't think.
I mean, it's a serious question because I know where you're coming from. I mean, I used to sing with bands in the 80s, so I never had that problem. I didn't give a shit. I'd go to anyone, sang anything, even it didn't matter if it was rap. But so what I'm talking about is that there will be people watching this who may suffer from that fear of rejection or they're not good enough. This might just be what they need. So that's why I'm asking the question. It wasn't a flipping question.
Yeah, I had something similar as well. When I was in secondary school, I wasn't the best of the group of guitarists. I wasn't the best guitarist. There was about 2 or 3 better guitarists than me. So I ended up being the singer for a while of bands and jamming bands and things like that. And for the end of school kind of assembly, we were meant to sing Kaylee by Marillion for the whole school. and we got up there, and the music started and carried on all the way through, and I froze for the whole 5 minutes of the song, standing in front of the whole school, not being able to sing, just standing there. And it was I was just scared to death. I didn't, I completely froze. And after that, it almost prompted me to throw myself in more, to prove myself that I can do it. So we used to do karaoke when I used to go to the pubs and stuff, and not drink, and just go and sing and throw myself up there and just prove it wrong, and try to make amends for it, because it was the worst experience I've ever I've almost ever had. It's horrible.
I must admit, I made a statement which was I never suffered for that. But when I think about it, I used to always have a good few drinks before I went on.
Yeah, well, that's what I was doing in my first band, but I think because I was drinking, it did sound terrible on some of these videos I watched back, and I was like, so I don't drink before I go on anymore.
And I got to the same about 86, 87, when the last band I was in, I decided to do that. Well, actually, I passed my driving test as well. So suddenly I was driving to gigs, whereas before that, I was never the driver. So it made me allowed me to drink. But I must admit, the first time I went on stage without any alcohol was strange. And I felt more inhibited. But what actually happened was after about 3 songs, I went, this is brilliant. This is much better than actually doing it with a drink. So actually, I was wrong in what I was saying, that we have to cope with the best we can. And there's just different coping mechanisms, I guess.
It is a good shield, because we can't just turn up to a gig and in our t-shirt and jeans and just go on. There's 2 hours of preparation or whatever to either get ourselves ready, get the merch stuff, prep all the props and the electric chair and the chainsaw to make sure it's all working. So you kind of then you get yourself into a completely different mindset, and it is good, because you stop. Like now, whenever I'm stressed as normal David, I always wish that I was wearing this, because this is my shield.
Right.
This is how I experience really good times. So I know when I'm having a crap time, I almost want to hide behind something that is always reminding me that there's something good there as well.
So do you actually method act? So as soon as you're picked up in the van to go to that gig, you're in character all the way there, or not?
I don't think.
I don't mean that you're on about killing.
I think for me, we generally put our makeup on when we get to the venue, because half of them are really long drives that we do to get to places. But I think that transformation, the putting the makeup on, is an important part for me. We did our album launch for the Art of Manipulation in 2017, was it? And we got a makeup artist in to do all our makeup for that one, because she wanted to do it for a portfolio. And I hadn't done this, because she'd done it. I hadn't gone through this kind of transformation, and it didn't feel right to me. I just didn't feel right. So I didn't tell her, but I kind of went back up and redid my makeup the way I like it to be done, and things like that, because I needed to just to get into character and be me.
Yeah. And I don't think we have anything specific character, but what we're quite shy in real life, as normal people. So I find when I put this on and we go to an event, I'm actually more outgoing and talkative and less kind of introvert than I would be if I was just walking around. And you become part of public domain, which I enjoy doing that, to be honest. I prefer talking to people like this.
It's really funny, because I think most people would assume that when you look at people like yourselves who have a character, like Kiss did, they expect you to be actually an extrovert to be able to carry that off. But I would guarantee you, I bet you, the vast majority of people that do that are introverts. And that's I'm glad that you're saying that, because it is a misconception, I think, a lot of people. So where did the concept of WARD 16 come from? And the actual, if you just look back to when it started and how it's developed, the actual concept of what Ward 16 as a band is, not the characters just now, just the actual band.
It was always an idea I had to begin with, but it developed when, I think initially I just had this idea of what the main character was going to do, and the actual asylum part of it wasn't any part of it. But it was kind of when Ward 16 was written, the song. Martin Crawley did the keyboard intro for it, and I started writing the lyrics for it, and it just came quite naturally about being, I don't know, just
has it developed out the music more than, because I had this vision that you had the whole idea almost like a film, like a film set, like a film idea. I can't really think of the word.
The storyline was there, wasn't it?
Yeah,
but
the storyline, but it was all revolving around, because obviously this, when you listen to the first album, it's she's being interviewed by a psychiatrist, and it's going back to her previous life and what she did. So initially, whilst I was writing the story and we were putting the music together and things, it was all just about this story about this killer and what she does. It was never looking back into it from Ward 16. I think that came about 4 songs later when we started looking at band names. It took us ages to find a band name, but we started looking up about what had taken place at Whittingham Hospital, which was just down the road, and there was some like horrific abuse that took place on Ward 16, which is why we named it Ward 16. And then it just kind of fell into place. Like, yeah, this can be told from like further ahead in time, going back to what she did before she got on Ward 16.
So it's almost like the idea of Arkham.
Yeah.
It's never struck me before, but I was just thinking about it now. It's not a copy, because it's definitely not. But I mean, as I say, having looked at some of the things with Arkham in it, it's kind of got that vibe to it as well, hasn't it?
Yeah. And it's whether we, as a band, her bandmates actually exist, or whether we're part of her imagination when she's talking about the story. So it's kind of like is an hallucination there, and I think originally there was that anthology, wasn't it? It was like there's an idea of 3 albums which were going to talk about her lifespan, but the actual theatric concept of it wasn't there, or wasn't developed, and that's the one thing. I think that's what has gained that's been explored more than the actual storyline. I think that's the one thing that's evolved more, because the story was always there one way or another, and the musicality was.
I think there was a bit at first. There was like too many arguments about what people wanted to do. I had this idea and I wanted to go big on theatrics, and other people were like, "Oh, I don't want to wear like these clothes, and I don't like the idea of having an actor on stage and things." So it was.
Yeah, it was quite inhibited, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think after Bloodstock, there was a bit of some band members just thought, right, that's it, we've reached our pinnacle now, and we're happy. We want to leave it here, and there was others of us that wanted to take this further. So it kind of put a split in the band. But since
that's strange, isn't it? What should have been the I want to do this all the time, and I want to do it all over the world because this is it. This is what I want to do. Some of them was it? Would you think that they were? Do you think some of them were embarrassed?
I think.
No, I think it's more the age of the people in the band. They've got us. They was all getting to the age where they're still young, but they know they want to settle down, have kids, and they're all getting girlfriends and things like that. So it became a decision for people.
Yeah, that was the defining point where we stopped being a pub band and had to stop thinking that we were a pub band and actually making an actual commitment to say this is what we want to do, obviously we still work as well, but it was something that to keep at that level or to progress, it was a stepping stone to carry on. Whereas I think with them, it was like, this is it, we've reached it, and then go back to what we were doing before. And half of us said, nah, this is the start of it, and this is where we take off from. And we obviously want to come back there. So it has been something that's developed more and more, and when we've gained more against confidence in ourselves by actually enjoying it and knowing what we're doing and seeing other bands and working with different bands and the success of the music and the feedback that we have off a lot of the people, it's allowed us to really go, okay, let's take it. And we started thinking about, okay, what's our concept? Because beforehand we all just wore different outfits, there's no uniformity to it. So we started to dress more, have a theme, start building not just the lyrical world around Psychoberry or whatever, but actually create a world around it where you can actually escape into. So it has become more like a film screenplay than it has been just thinking about, when we're writing the album, not just thinking about the music, we're thinking about the story and the pictorial elements of it, how merch might tap into it, how like videos will tell the story, and also the stage show as well.
Yeah, that's cool.
It's pretty cool the way, like, the whole concept and how it all fits together and stuff like that. But can you talk us through the actual band members and how you came up with each character?
A bit trial and error, wasn't it?
Yeah, to be honest,
Yeah.
I can't pretend that was in any way kind of organised. Yeah. It was, I had this place in a story, and then these other people, like, what do we do with these people? Yeah, so we've tried to tie everyone into the concept in the best way that we can, really. Yeah,
and I think because I've got the medical background, I just, and there's that elements of what would you find in an asylum or a ward or whatever. I took on like the doctor elements of it, and I've always loved like Halloween and things like that. So I called myself Dr. von Stottenstein instead of von Dr. Steen and things like that. So that kind of harked back to like my love of more symphonic and power metal and things like that, and horror. And I think
everyone's just a version of themselves, really.
Yeah.
I was going to ask that because surely other than you having been the main character and the actual thing, the whole everything revolves around you and your world. There must have been an element of you looked at the people that were in the band and then created an image that suited them. Or was there ever a case of you had to sort of like calm down some of your ideas because you just knew they wouldn't go for it? You ever had that?
No.
In the beginning. That's what we were talking about in the beginning, when there's lots of arguments about things, because I wanted to go big on the theatrics, but I was always faced with, no, we can't do that. But every single step of the way, I remember just saying, it was just the simple things that are part of our show, like having, at first I just had a blood knife. And they're like, oh, no, you can't do that. And I was like, I'll just buy a knife from Asda and blunt it. And they were like, no, they didn't trust me. And then I brought it in and I was like, look, it's fine. And then we used that. And then next time I wanted to bring a chainsaw on stage. And they're like, no, we'll get kicked out. You can't do that. You know what I mean? They'll be like kind of goody two-shoes about everything. Whereas I was just like, I'll do what I want. So
I just have this vision. I just have this vision, of them when they turn up. So every other band's like pedals, head, cabinet. Psychoberry's like knife, chainsaw, microphone. Oh yeah, microphone,
electric chair.
Electric chair.
I'm just more interested when the police are driving past and loading or load
out.
Oh no, load in and load out, and you go,
dead body.
How are you doing?
I've been looking forward to that moment all my life. It's just never happened, because there's been times when I've been driving on my own and I've had a boot full, because they've got all the instruments. I've just had all the props in my boot, which was just
dead bodies and
dead bodies,
torsos,
and I've had all this makeup on, and I've been covered after a gig. I've got blood all down my front, And just by chance, I had a balaclava in the glove box as well because we'd been go-karting. I was just thinking, imagine if I got pulled over now.
Like, here's the next challenge for you then. On the way home from your next gig, the dummy's hand, just leave it outside the booth. Just close it on the fingers, like, you know what I mean?
I know that. Have you ever played Scotland?
Yeah, we played
Glasgow twice,
Glasgow?
Edinburgh.
Cat House,
Cat House, Ivory Black.
Cool.
Winterstone. Bannerman's.
In Edinburgh.
Bannerman's is nice. I love Bannerman's.
And we played Dundee as well when we did the tour with Doyle.
I was just going to say, because if you turned up to most venues in Scotland looking like that, they'd be going, right, boys, we can stand down the bouncers tonight.
Yeah.
We've got bigger nutters coming to play.
Yeah. We love Scotland. It's whenever we
favourite places to play.
whenever we do look to tour and stuff, Glasgow, Edinburgh, like the two nailed on places.
Bannerman's is probably.
Do you know what?
Absolute favourite venues.
I actually agree with you.
Are really cool as well.
It's something about the venue. It's something about the people in Edinburgh. They just buy into the music scene.
Yeah.
Right. And I love it up there. It's just
I don't know whether it's because they have, they have the Edinburgh, the Edinburgh Fringe, and whether that kind of theatrical element is ingrained in, in the culture or not, I don't know. But we love Scotland. It's been wonderful for us.
Yeah, you'll not get me gushing about Edinburgh because I'm a West Coaster. It'd be like you two sitting there talking about how wonderful London is. It's just not going to happen. But Bannerman's is cool. And can we go into the kind of music side of things just now? Can we talk about the music writing process? So how do you always follow the same way? Does it vary? Can you talk us through that? Let's talk about, for example, the last album. How did the writing process go for that, and how has it changed, or has it changed?
It was quite good, wasn't it? Because
we're probably better off talking about the first album just because we changed the way we wrote quite dramatically.
Yeah, the first album was jammed. So the first album was jammed in a rehearsal room, everyone full blast and just playing whatever, and then hoping that he remembered how to play it the week after or whatever.
With me trying to record it on my mobile phone, and then him shouting at me because I hadn't recorded something that he. Yeah,
because I can't. I'm crap. I don't. I noodle and play, and then if I forget it as soon as I played it. So if you haven't recorded it, I've forgotten it. So the first album was written and kind of jammed out like that, and then.
I'd be trying to. I think it wasn't really as organised either because we didn't. It wasn't necessarily like, okay, this is the concept, let's write a song to fit this concept. It was like, we've all come up with this music, put some lyrics to it, Kerry, and I'd try and force this music into a concept that wasn't necessarily fitting.
Yeah, and also because you're in a small room and everyone's playing really loud. When we actually got to the studio and we started, we didn't know how to play it because it wasn't structured in a way, and then we found out that half of us were playing something completely different in a different scale than somebody else, because it gets masked within the noise and the reverb and the echoing of the room. With the second one, because primarily it was myself and Psychoberry that wrote the album, we did it here at home, so we did it, and it was quite easy. It felt easy or natural anyway. It just kind of flowed. We had
a less cooked situation, wasn't it? Which actually helped with getting the story across, definitely.
Yeah, so we had the story, and she'd go, well, I want this. I know what the narrative of the story is, so I want it to sound a little bit like this. Or she'd write the keys for it, and then I'd listen to it and then take the guitar, and so it helped me in regards to knowing what the emotional elements of it needed to be. She mapped the drums on the computer and everything and did all the keys, and then from that we had the skeleton of a CD of an album, which but just myself, and we had a couple of ideas from Martin Crawley, who was the keyboardist on the first album but had left, but we'd asked him to come and write with us again to have that continuity of sound from the first album to the second. So he'd had a couple of ideas that we took and developed as well, but we had complete control over it. So what it enabled us to do is actually concentrate on what the emotional narrative needed to be. We were also thinking about what the theatrical elements of it was going to be as well. So it wasn't just like the first album where we had the music, and then the more we gigged, the more things we tagged on stage and developed and evolved that way. From this point of view, we did everything from the very beginning, said, well, how is this going to work on stage? So we're really thinking about it from a holistic perspective rather than it just being a musical. And it felt quite easy as well, because she's brutal. If she doesn't like an idea, she'll tell.
Cut your head off with a chainsaw.
Yeah. So yeah. so every night, every 10 like 9 or 10 ideas I have, she'll take one of them, which is enough. I just it's like lights, but
I thought we were in the ward there.
yeah. It's strobes.
It's got that yellowy halogen light as well that makes it look like it is. Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
but I need to know where I'm going with the music. Otherwise, I just keep playing the way I play, which is kind of like Iron Maiden-y kind of way. And if that's my natural kind of way to play guitar, and if I'm not given a direction of how to of where I need to take it, I play like that all the time. So it was a lot easier for me to be playing there by the computer and she go, yes, no, how about doing it like this? Or, you know,
yeah.
so
because we were recording all the music on the PC as well, so we could export it, take it away and listen to it, and then we could come back and amend the demos. So we never had any of that struggle of someone's playing the wrong note here or something like that. Because then Wolfie Huntsman came down and he put his bass lines down, and we had every single track completely demoed out before we went into the studio. So it was kind of a lot easier. It was we knew everyone knew exactly what they were playing, and all the tempo tracks and everything were already laid out. So it was just
we've learned a lot from the first album, but all the mistakes that we made, we tried to kind of eliminate them and learn from them.
So obviously you talked about the perspective of the theatrical side of it and the show, how it's all put together and stuff. So what are the biggest challenges you've faced with putting a show like, you know, is it quite easier for you to extend the show, reduce it down? Because, you know, we go to venues, like, you know what I mean, and they'll go, you've got 30 minutes, that's all you're having, or you've got an hour and stuff like that.
There's a couple of challenges. The time is an issue, especially with the first album is like 110 minutes or whatever longer, or maybe a bit shorter than that. But we did find a set that fit the majority of the set times, and then we were able to make it almost like an abridged version, so like a trailer of the album. I think one of the difficulties was when you do get a shorter period of time is to how do you still have the story come across as a story instead of it, you know, you got transient people coming to a pub that have never seen us before. You can either have a show that they'll go, oh, there's a storyline here that fits place to play, you know, from song to song, and you can see it flow. Or there's just a bunch of weirdos on stage waving knives around and a chainsaw just for novelty. And so it was finding a way to make it not a novelty and for people to be engaged with it. So we over months and reflection and things like that, we started to have actors on stage with us that helped us not only portray the story, but also move sets around and move props around that we didn't have before. He also hands out newspapers at the beginning, which has the actual storyline synopsis on it. So like if you just walk in, it's almost like a theatrical display, you know, it's a theatrical experience rather than a gig. And that's what you'd expect when you go to a theatre. You'd see your backdrop and you'd see your story, you know, you'd see your set, and you'd have your program of the actors and what they do and what they're. So we felt we thought about it more as a theatrical performance. Money would not in terms of getting it.
No,
I mean, but it's more about,
it holds us back from, because
if we had more money, we'd be able to do things a lot more professionally, you know, in terms of how we present ourselves.
I've always got big ideas, and then we've got to try and
budgeting.
reel them back into what we can do with the money we've got and the space we've got
And,
to
and
fit
if
them
and
in.
if we can make them, and because we make all the props ourselves as well, so it's making sure that it all
and the
it all
space we
fits
have.
it, yeah.
I think if we, especially like with this new album, I was at the beginning when we were thinking about the props, I was going, well, if I'm going to be if I'm going to be like a youngster in this one, why don't we just make everything else really big, which would work really well on a big stage, but when
Yeah.
the reality is we're going to
just
be
about fit
playing
your amps on it,
like,
it
a
becomes
stage that we can only just fit ourselves on. And
but it has been
have
difficult,
props
hasn't it?
around us that are all huge.
Because there have been venues where we've had to have, because we used to on the first show, we used to have this table where we have a dummy and then and talk about disembowels and things like that, and that was like the showcase.
To make it work.
But one of the difficulties was when we played in smaller venues, we used to have to put it in front of the stage and not on top of the stage. So there would be some events where some drunk people start messing about with the props,
and then they got the wrath of me.
So you did you did attack a few people, didn't you?
No, I attacked one guy. He was about 7 foot. He was huge, and bear in mind I was pregnant at the time, and for some reason, when like throughout my first pregnancy, I was just kind of, I don't know what it is, just a protective thing, but I just, if people like
attack your dummy,
like I just go into this mode.
So she dived off stage and power slammed some fella, and it was in a.
Everybody thought he was just one of the actors. I bet you everybody was watching went, he must be one of the actors.
Yeah.
That was amazing. That was amazing.
Well, this lady ended up sitting, like, after it knocked him to the floor, he was still trying to kick the table and things. So the woman that owned the place ended up sitting on him till the bouncers came to kick him out.
Have you got it on film?
No.
See, this takes me on what you've just been talking about. It's interesting to me because, well, obviously you know that I work with bands, so a management company, etc. And this went through my head when we first started talking to you guys, and it was to me, right. I'll be perfectly honest with you. If I was working with you guys, you wouldn't be playing any venue where you couldn't do the show as a full-size show, because to me anything less than that isn't good enough for you. And it would almost be better doing 10 shows a year like that than playing 30 or 40 shows. Maybe not, you know. And that's kind of, because I'm thinking, like, if I came to see you and I know some of the places where some of our bands play, and we've all played them, you know what I mean, where the stage is literally the size of a fireplace, or maybe even is a fireplace. And I just think that when you come to deciding about where you're going to gig, do you ever, if you've never been to the venue, do you physically visit it? Do you get somebody to look at it? Do you scope it out? Do you measure it out, etc.? There has to be, in order to deliver the message good enough to go with your album.
We started to do that,
yeah.
We did make a conscious decision, because we
were supporting bands, weren't we? So we didn't really get much choice on where we were playing. And when we were supporting Doyle and the Misfits have always preferred playing these underground shows, haven't they? So all the venues he chose on his tour were all those kind of venues. Because
we played from between 2017 to 2019, we played about 70 gigs a year, and and it was just all over the place. And we just went, gig, we'll do it. And we compromised so much, because at that time as well, we were still in the mindset where we were just turning up to play with the show for which was compromised a little bit, because we didn't take a van, we all drove. So, we bodged so much, and then we got to a point where we go, okay, we need to get a van. We're going to have proper electric chair instead of using a chair from the venue, and all these other things like that. And we made a conscious decision that we need to be a lot more picky with the with the gigs, and that's not a disrespect to loads of the venues, because we've loved how we've learned and developed, and we've been schooled by playing these places. So it's not a case of where we feel like we're too big for it or too important. It's not that, but it did become something where we need to be able to deliver the show. And we've been asked a couple of times to do like web shows and shows where you didn't put makeup on and stuff. Go, no, because it's the whole experience, and the music doesn't happen without this, and this doesn't happen without the music. And it's a
we didn't want to
art, you know.
Because we kept rescheduling the album launch. We were always of the mindset that was going to be our first gig, and we didn't want to have all these people pay to come and see the show for the first time, and then it not be that.
Because it is unique, your unique selling point. You know, that's what makes you different.
And I think
and the thing I would be scared of, and obviously that's what you're talking about, is that I wouldn't want somebody to come and see WARD 16 and get a lesser customer experience than somebody else at a different venue, just because the venue lends itself to it. And that's pretty much how I would. That's how I would view it. I don't think a case of you wouldn't be supporting anybody.
Yeah, and there's also the point where you go, if you play loads and loads and loads of gigs, and they're relatively near to each other, if you're playing the same show, and if doing the same show and the same theatrics, you lose that kind of spectacle, because you go, oh, this is the bit with the chainsaw, this is the bit, you know, if you've seen it the week before and the week before that. So it is a kind of a case of, we felt we just need to consolidate it into tour, kind of, you know, to do a group of shows and do a couple of festivals and then a group of shows again, rather than just doing every weekend throughout the year. Because I think what we're trying to do now is to do something more with the videos that we're producing, and having something visual to go along with the show as well. So it's we're trying to think of ways to keep the momentum without necessarily needing to gig and it's difficult because everyone's got kids as well, so it is so difficult. And you know, Psychoberry's up the duff again. so we just, you know, and I'm not, you know,
it's not against the Hippocratic Oath, Doc.
Assuming
you're the father, that's completely breaking Hippocratic Oath. I have to say,
you know,
I didn't think it was allowed in the ward, like, you know what I mean? But these things happen. So
he had to pass me his sperm to be the
yeah.
Wow, that escalated quickly, didn't it?
Moving on.
Yeah, let's take. I would say take that on the chin, but I've got to make the words change now. Like so, right, guys. Obviously, when the asylum releases us all, we can all get out there. What are the plans for WARD 16? What are we going to see this year from you?
We've got a Halloween gig, because we originally, what we wanted to do, as Psychoberry said before, because the launch gig was meant to be the first time anybody had seen the show, that's been moved back a couple of times. So that's still December the 18th, Manchester. But we've got a couple of shows that had already been booked before that. So we're playing Dementia Fest, we're playing a Halloween show, and we're playing a larger festival that we haven't been announced for yet. But not Bloodstock, but later on in the year in November. But we're keeping it quite sparse, because obviously the baby's due in July, so, and the band haven't seen each other for about a year as well, because we've all been shielding and
so we've not actually rehearsed the album.
We haven't played the album.
Yeah. So we've got new members on board.
Yeah, we have to remember how to play it.
So we're doing the Halloween gigs just a week before the other festival, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we kind of made the decision to do that because we've never played with these new members before, and we didn't want the big festival just to be our first show.
You want to break them in gently, then, yeah.
We're using so much new technology and things like that.
Yeah, because we've got a new light show, you know, new props and things. So we wanted to have a couple of, it's an opportunity to really practice it, isn't it? to loosen up again, because it has been, our last gig was November 2019. So it's you know, it'll almost be 2 years from the day that we all last played as a band. So it's, you know, although we've got music out there, we haven't actually performed it, you know, as a in a live context. So it's gonna be fun. And then next year we're planning tours, aren't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, got a couple of UK tours.
Ah, that's brilliant. That's ace. Because that leads me on to the last question, really. And it's a question of, if you, in the future, you're looking back at WARD 16, how would you quantify success to you guys?
I don't know, because it's ever, when we first started, you look at the bigger pub as being where you want to go, and you achieve that, and then you go, I want to be in that bigger pub, and then I want to have an album, and then we want the album to be successful, and then you want the next album and it just keeps snowballing to the point where
I think
I'm
I've
not
always
satisfied.
I've always aimed high with it, and I think if I was to actually class us as being successful, it'd be that we probably like make enough money to survive and not have to work basically 2 full-time jobs.
No, that's never going to happen. I think for me, I think looking back and going, let's get to Bloodstock and download on our own terms. You know, because when we went to Bloodstock first time, we won Metal to the Masses, so we got a foot in the door that way. And think, hopefully, now with the festivals and things like that, and the tours and accolades and things, it's being able to be voluntarily invited to these places due to you know what they've liked or seen or whatever. I don't think we'll ever be rich. We'll never be famous. I think we're enjoying it. I think looking back, it's just the memory. Like, I think look back and the memories that we've got already are wonderful. And like, so but I'm always looking at that next place to hit. So I'm never satisfied. But we've got to do it in the right way, you know, and the music.
Yeah, I think a big ambition of mine is to play Download, just because that's where it all kind of started for me. So
that'd be cool.
If I could like say to my 16-year-old self, look, you did it, you are on stage at Download Festival, that would be a big deal for me.
Yeah, I can understand that 100%.
And then when we play there, then it'll go, I'm not satisfied with that, I want a headline now.
Yeah, there's always somewhere better to be.
Yeah,
and I think that's important as well, because that's what gives you the drive to keep improving.
And then you look back and we've got people with band tattoos and things like that, and that is, and we're one of I think we're one of these really lucky bands that have a group of people that really connect with us. For I don't know how or why, but they do. We've got a good relationship with the people that listen to the music. And you go to festivals, and even if we're not playing them, there'll be people in our t-shirts. And I don't think I'll ever get used to that. Coming from someone who was, you know, I used to go to Quiggins and things like that and buy Iron Maiden t-shirts and whatever, knowing what love would have to go into it to go out and buy someone else's t-shirts, to go out and then see people doing the same to themselves with something I've had a part of. It's just it's crazy. It's something that I don't get tired of, and I don't take for granted. And I think as long as there's people out there that like us and want us to carry on and get tattoos and wearing our stuff, we've got like this obligation to just keep pushing it as hard as we can to and take it as big theoretically as we can.
I think I liken you guys quite a bit, not musically, but to Twisted Illusion, because with Matt, he creates soundscapes that aren't always easy to do live, or unless you really, you know, he's got them, and you have very similar fan bases, and you know that's sort of like they're with you thick and thin.
Yeah, you can't do this
for different reasons, but you can't knock it.
Yeah, you can't do it half-arsed, and I think you can't just turn up, and that's, you know, you can't just turn up pissed and just and play the gig. You've got to put everything into it, and not just on that night, it continues. You know, we talk to people all the time, and it's something that is taken over, and it's great. And Matt has done the same. He's probably a lot more vocal and says a lot more C words than I ever will. But we do talk, and there's like we're two sides of the same coin in regards to how we want to drive the philosophy of what we do, and how the philosophy is what we do, rather than it just being something that we dip in and out of.
I wasn't even aware of that with you. It's just I've always, when I've watched the two bands, like how you put yourselves out there, I don't know why I liked the two, but I did. And we interviewed Matt before Christmas, and and that's what we liked. And then when you came up, one contact, it was like, yeah, it's two sides of the same coin, but you have something else to think about, which is the whole theatric side. And that's why we love having you on.
Yeah, again, because there's a big prog, as much as the shock rock, we're prog fans as well, and we've found we've kind of teetered in that direction a little bit with the new album. And like with Dream Theater, Marillion, Pink Floyd, we've had a lot of people compare it. So, and especially with Matt, and Matt does a lot with the prog side of it as well. And I think our influences do, especially mine and his, probably do start at the same kind of point, and it's kind of gone that way, and carried on the same road on different sides of the road.
Yeah, it's cool.
So, being the Scouser I am, we did say that was the last question, but hey, I'm a Scouser. I'm allowed to.
Yeah.
Can you give us your links to how do people go if they want to come and see you, if they want to hear your music? How do we get in touch with you guys?
You're crap at this. I was looking at it.
Facebook.com/WARD XVI.
Yeah.
WARDXVI.bandcamp.com. That's me finished.
Yeah. So website. So its website is www.ward16.com. That's Ward XVI, not XV1. Facebook, it's Facebook-Ward XVI. We're on Twitter. We're on Instagram, but we're blocked at the moment. Websites.
But it's harassing too many girls.
Yeah, that's it. I've been shown.
You've been sending everybody their messages saying, if you want
can't wait to get us on TikTok, me.
Yeah, I've been getting boobs out too much for trying to get us some followers on Instagram. But I try to be everywhere in regards to it. So whether it's in bands in town or band camp and things like that, it's just spend all day talking to people. And
what
we're
I'll
trying
do
to
for
figure
you.
out TikTok, but we don't. I don't understand how it works at all.
I will put you in touch with somebody who understands it completely. I'll message you later. Who understands it completely, and he's started to work with bands on it. So I'll just link you to him, and he'll talk to you about it.
Oh, nice one, thank you.
Cool. That'd be good.
So what I will do for you is I'll put all your links down below. So everyone who's watching, please click on the link below. Join them in the asylum. Get over there. Check them out. These guys are amazing. So thank you very much for your time. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks so much.
I can't thank you enough. John, over to you, mate.
Well, there you are. That's another night with the Scouser and the Scot. We really enjoyed it. I hope you have as well. And if you have, you know what to do. Hit that cowbell and subscribe.